What's pretty? Kami here, and this is my review for Bleach Chapter 524, The Drop. Chapter starts off with Izana reading a letter from Unohana, and she starts to cry. Yachiro finds Kenpachi's eye patch and just looks at it. Then it immediately switches then to Unohana and Kenpachi fighting. They're just, clashing swords, dodging each other's attacks. Unohana kicks Kenpachi's wrist away, and she gets knocked back up against the wall and just hops off and attacks him again. The two of them just clash swords for a while, and then Kenpachi says that he used to look up to her, and she scolds him for this, saying, "You shouldn't tell your opponent that you look up to him during a battle." And then she slashes him in the shoulder, and she jumps back. Then suddenly you just see a big blade in Kenpachi's shoulder, and he asks her. He says that she has changed since the last time they fought because she's using cheap tricks, and she then tells him that she hasn't changed at all. She's just, last time they fought, she wasn't able to use it against him, implying that he was weaker. He then asks if he has gotten weaker, and then he starts to cry and basically asks if he's going to die before he can defeat her. Suddenly he's just stabbed right through the neck, and he thinks it's over. Suddenly he just opens his eyes again, and then Hannah just says, did something happen? It looks like you lost consciousness." Kenpachi just looks completely confused by this and simply just tells her to shut up, knocks her away, and then tells himself that he can't be thinking about this kind of thing in battle. He has to concentrate on the fight, and basically that he needs to win. Unohana then tells herself that Kenpachi's not going to die, because every time he's near the brink of death, he just comes back even stronger, and that the way things have gone, I can't remember exactly what she says here, but something about her sin, and then the chapter ends. My thoughts on the chapter. I quite enjoyed this one, actually. There was a lot of action, and it's been a few weeks, a couple of months even, since we've seen a fighting chapter. So I did kind of enjoy this one, because I enjoyed the whole Ichigo and Renji thing, going through the different Royal Guard palaces, but it did get a bit boring after a while. But the whole Asachi thing was pretty interesting as well. I wouldn't mind thinking a bit more on that, but I'm glad we stuck with Zaraki and Unohana for this chapter. I think that the next chapter is simply going to be a flashback. I don't think it'll show a lot. I think it'll just show how they first met each other and why they were fighting. Because in this chapter it shows that when they were fighting, Unohana had her captain's robe on, so obviously she was obviously part of the Goatee 13 at the time, but we don't really know how old Kenpachi is. So is he just as old as Unohana, possibly a bit younger, or did this happen like a few hundred years down the line after she had become the captain? I don't really know about that. We don't really know anything about that. I'm sure we'll find out within the next few chapters if Kubo sticks with Zaraki and Unohana. If he doesn't, then we won't find out for a while. But I'm 95% sure that the next chapter is going to be a flashback. Not the whole chapter. The last few pages and possibly the first few pages won't be a flashback. Here's a little theory I had on her sin. I think possibly Unohana was the one who massacred Yachiro's village, because that would add a lot more story between the two characters. And maybe, obviously that would have been after the two of them fought, because Zaraki then named Yachiro at the time. So I think that'd be an interesting turn of events. I can't really think what else this thing could be, unless it's something we've just never even heard of at all. Perhaps she killed someone in his family, a friend of his maybe, but Kenpachi's never mentioned them. He's never mentioned any family or friends. He said he never cared about anybody and only looked up to one person, and that was Unohana. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the chapter. I know this is a bit short, but not really a lot happened. They were just kind of talking and fighting. One thing I did like about this chapter though was how the two characters were very different from what we normally get. Unohana is the kind, soft-spoken captain, the healer, and then Kenpachi, who's usually, bloodthirsty, ready to battle, always up for a fight, loves to fight. He was completely different in this one. He even cried. I mean, we've never seen Kenpachi do that. I actually thought that was really cool. That there's a lot of character development going on there, but now that Kenpachi's back to normal after just at the end of the chapter, everything's going to get a lot more serious, and it's going to get a lot more awesome. So yeah, that's my thoughts on chapter. I'm going to give an 8.5 out of 10 mainly because it was too short, and because sometimes it was kind of hard to see what was going on. The first few times I had to read it a few times to actually get to see exactly what was going on most of the time. But it was a cool chapter. 8.5 out of 10. That's about it. This is Green Academy. I'll talk to you later.